5 pieces of advice, and my first one is control what you can control. You can control how the quality of your letter and the quality of your CV. You can't control what goes in it. If you're looking for a job today, you can't change what's in the CV. You've done what you've done. But if you're just coming in and you know you're headed towards academia, you can start working on experiences that will help round out your CV. So you look like really 3 things, and you guys already said it. Are you a good fit with the requirements of the job as they're spelled out in the letter? Are you likely to be a leader? That's another one. Can you lead in research? And are you a good teacher? That's really, I think, what people are looking at in a general sense. And then, the specifics play out the way they play out. But those are things that you want to convey and that you can control, especially at the letter and CV stage, because there were 80 people that applied for the position that I got. And when I was on a search committee at San Diego State, there were 80 people on that. So a committee of 4 or 6 has to go through 80 applicants. And you have to be able to say for the 75 who didn't make it, why they didn't make it and these 5 did. It's part of affirmative action, which it's there for a reason so that things are fair and just, but at the same time, that's the kind of work it creates for a search committee. So you really need to have a letter and CV that speak for themselves. And speaking from instructional design, one of my key points was that when I designed my CV, I wanted to look like a designer. I didn't just have a bunch of text. I made it look like something I put a lot of attention to in designing. But that works in our field because we're designers. So other designers who pick it up say, oh, look, he really is a designer. If you're not in instructional design, I don't know if that applies so much. But you do want to make it easy to read. You want the key things to come out. And I didn't know this. I wish I had when I applied. That letter should really be like a page, maybe a page and a half.
How long was yours?
My first one was 3 pages. I was that important.
We had some 6-pagers.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah. The letter is the broad strokes. The CV, though, you can sneak details in. Because if someone's interested in you, they'll start looking at the CV for that. So I would do things like, I have skills in Dreamweaver. Here's an example, and I'd embed a hyperlink. So now I'm getting more information in over the same amount of real estate that everybody else had. So when you can do things like that, when you can think creatively about it, if I can get somebody interested enough to look at my CV, then I can use the CV to link to other things if they're interested. And I'm pretty sure a few people on this search committee here at UGA looked at that stuff. So it works. I will tell you, for phone interviews, they're really weird. They really are. Because you don't have the social cues.
I really don't like them.
When there's a pause, you don't know if it's because they think you're an idiot or because they're just giving you time to finish your thought. So I will say San Diego State, when I got that job, my phone interview was in my pajamas because I wanted to be relaxed.
I dressed up for mine.
See? Did you really?
After
Whatever works. Whatever works, but you have to do whatever you can to be as comfortable as possible because it's the most uncomfortable interview you will ever have in your life.
That's a great story.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
I remember...
Are you in your pajamas now? Is that what the story is?
You don't know.
I know. It's the neck up.
No. But my advisor gave me some good advice. I thought it was really good. When you get that phone call, because sometimes they'll tell you that they're going to call you on a certain day. Sometimes they'll just cold call you. They'll just get a phone call from someone that's wanting to interview you. And what you do is you always say, shoot, you know what, I'm in the middle of something, can I call you back in 5 minutes?
That's right.
And that gives you 5 minutes to go look up their website, remind yourself who's in the department, what kinds of things they're publishing, and what kinds of classes you would teach if you were there, kind of refresh. And I actually had a binder where for every single job I was applying for, I stuck things like that into the binder so that if I got a phone interview, I could open up the binder, pull out the stuff, and remind myself what classes they offered in their department, what their department was called, what their focus was, all those kinds of things. Take 5-10 minutes to refresh yourself, and then when they call you again, or when you call them back, then you're ready for a good interview.
Yeah, because they're going to ask you, what course do you think you could teach? Hopefully it's a course they offer. So if you go and look ahead of time, then you'll know which courses you could potentially teach. It just makes things smoother. And those are things you can control. I didn't have multiple binders, but I at least had a binder, and it had sections of when I had made it. I had been invited on all my phone interviews. So I did that kind of research.
Have you already scheduled the phone interview? So if somebody calls and you're still saying, can I call you back in 5 minutes, is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
She's saying if you got a
If you
scheduled phone.
Oh, no. If you schedule it, then do the work before the scheduled time. Usually I'd get an email that said, can we set up a date next week for a phone interview? So then I had a week to do my homework and figure out what this place was like. And
So sometimes they won't schedule ahead.
that's what he's saying. I never had that,
I've never had that either.
but if that were to happen, then that's a good strategy. My other strategy was to avoid Skype. Oh, I can't get on Skype right now. Can we just do it over the phone? Because that's even worse, because then you have to stare at the camera the whole time and talk. You know, you're like, and it's too much. It's too much. You're already nervous enough. Anyways, that was just me. You're not going to lose the job because you didn't Skype. I'm having trouble with it right now. I'm an educational technologist and I don't like Skype.
It also depends if the line speed is fast enough.
Well, yeah.
If you're calling from your house, the line speed could be too slow. You've talked to your family before and they jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not fun.
And then they don't know if it's you who's having trouble with the conversation or if it's the technology. And so you want to avoid that. Because you had said this. Having a conversation is an important part, and you only have 2 opportunities to prove you can have that conversation. Phone interview is the first one, and it's only 20 minutes. So you want it to go smoothly. So my other advice, you have to remember it's as much about you as that it isn't. So if you don't fit the requirements, you don't fit the requirements. And a lot of times if you try and make it sound like you do, people can see through it. I'm not saying don't try, but at the same time, don't be surprised when people do see through it. But the applicant pool is another big deal. I can think of at least one other person, if not 2, who if they were in my applicant pool, I don't know that I would be here right now. Because they were doing as good as, if not, I don't know how it looks on paper, but slightly better than where I was for a 3rd-year assistant professor. Doing very similar things, technology integration in K-12 schools. I don't think they were in the applicant pool. I know one of them wasn't.
Go back to what you first said, which was, don't you make the decision.
Exactly.
You send your stuff in. let them make
Exactly.
the decision.
But,
He would have kicked himself out of the pool if he didn't know they'd been.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not saying don't try. I'm saying that if you don't get a job, it's probably not about you, because it could be about who was in the applicant pool. It could be about you not fitting the requirements. It could be about personalities. I had this one interview, it was a phone interview, and the person said, and I want you to think about the answer, who is the most influential person on you as an instructional designer? Do you know what the correct answer is? You are, of course. I didn't know that at the time. But, now you think about that question, you're like, why would anybody even ask that? Of course it's going to be your advisor. You've worked with them for 4 years. But then you have to start thinking, so anyways, that's the personality of the person and the people who worked there. And so that brings me to my next point. The majority of jobs that you never get, you probably didn't want. Either because the job really wasn't a good fit for you and you would have figured that out and been very unhappy, or it just wasn't right at the right time. So when I was rejected after 40 applications, I did make it very far in the Memphis pool. And so now that I've kept in touch with the folks who did get the job and see what they're doing, they're happy, and it was a good fit for them. But I don't think I would have been happy there. But I didn't know that at the time. I was mad that I didn't get the job. But now that I have this hindsight, it probably wasn't a good fit for me. And same thing when I was deciding between San Diego or continuing with Indiana University, and I ended up going with San Diego State because if I had gone to Indiana 3 years ago, I wasn't the right person for the job at that time. I didn't have the right skill set. I wouldn't have survived Research 1. I didn't know enough. 3 years at San Diego State was great preparation for what this environment is like now, and I feel very confident that this is where I need to be right now. So you kind of have to weigh it that way. Sometimes when you get those messages like, oh, I didn't get the job, it may not be about you. Or it may be that this isn't right for you right now.